Have you ever wondered how the choices you make shape your life? I mean, it seems kind of obvious when you say it out loud, but we make so many choices every day, from the moment we wake up to the moment we finally fall asleep. And it's not just the big stuff like whether to go to college or take that job offer, it's the little things too, you know? Like, should I hit snooze again? Should I have cereal or toast? What shirt should I wear today? These may seem like insignificant decisions in the grand scheme of things, but they all add up. They create the patterns and habits that ultimately define our lives. So, what does it all mean? Well, it means that we have a lot more control over our destinies than we might think. Every choice, no matter how small, is an opportunity to steer ourselves in a new direction, to learn something new, to become a slightly different version of ourselves. And that's kind of amazing, don't you think? It can be a little daunting too, of course, all that pressure. But mostly, I think it's exciting. So, let's talk about choices. The good, the bad, and the just plain weird, and how we can get a little bit better at making them. So, let's start with something seemingly insignificant, like breakfast. You wake up, you're groggy, maybe a little bit grumpy, I feel personally attacked, and you're faced with a choice sugary cereal or a piece of fruit. Now, one bowl of sugary cereal isn't going to derail your entire life. But what if, day after day, you make the same choice? What if that sugary cereal becomes a habit, a comfortable routine? Well, maybe you start the day with a sugar rush, but then comes the inevitable crash, leaving you sluggish and unproductive. Maybe your energy levels are consistently low, making it harder to focus on work or enjoy your hobbies. Maybe you don't feel as good in your own skin, and that lack of confidence starts to seep into other areas of your life. See, it's not really about the cereal, is it? It's about the cumulative effect of small choices, how they build upon each other to create larger patterns in our lives. It's like that chaos theory thing, the butterfly effect. One seemingly insignificant decision can have ripple effects that we may not even realize. Now, I'm not saying you have to become some kind of ascetic monk who only eats kale smoothies and meditates for 12 hours a day. But being mindful of the choices we make, even the small ones, can make a world of difference in the long run. It's about recognizing that even the smallest decisions have consequences, and those consequences, however subtle, contribute to the overall quality of our lives. So, next time you're staring into the abyss of your pantry, remember, even breakfast can be a profound act of self-determination. Okay, so we've established that even small choices matter, but what about the big ones? The life-altering fork in the road, oh my god, my entire future hinges on this kind of choices. Yeah, those can be a little more intimidating. We're talking about things like choosing a career path, deciding whether to get married or have kids, where to live, decisions that can shape the entire trajectory of our lives. These choices often come with higher stakes, more pressure, and a whole lot more second-guessing, and there's no magic formula, no easy answer, but I think the key here is to be as intentional as possible. It's about figuring out what truly matters to us, what kind of life we want to build, and then making choices that align with those values. It's about gathering information, weighing the pros and cons, and yes, maybe even making a good old-fashioned pros and cons list. But it's also about listening to our gut, that little voice inside that often knows what we truly want, even when our heads are spinning with a million different possibilities. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of making conscious choices, but there's this thing, right? This thing called decision fatigue. It's this real phenomenon where our brains basically get tired of making decisions after a while. Think about it, we make thousands of decisions every single day, from what to wear to what to eat to what to watch on Netflix. And all those decisions, big or small, they take a toll. As the day goes on, our mental energy reserves start to deplete, and we become more likely to make impulsive or less than ideal choices. So, what can we do about it? Well, one strategy is to try and simplify our lives, to reduce the number of decisions we have to make on a daily basis. This could mean creating routines, automating certain tasks, or even just minimizing our wardrobe. Another helpful tactic is to prioritize our decisions. Save our mental energy for the big stuff, the choices that really matter, and try to delegate or automate the rest. And hey, sometimes it's okay to just say no. We don't have to say yes to every opportunity, every request, every decision. Sometimes, opting out is the best choice we can make for our mental well-being. So all this talk about choices reminds me of this one time, back when I was in my early 20s, when I had this crazy idea that I was going to move to Amsterdam. I had this whole romantic vision of myself, riding a bicycle along the canals, writing in charming little cafes, and just generally living my best European life. I had it all planned out. I was going to sell all my stuff, buy a one-way ticket, and figure it out from there. I even started learning a little bit of Dutch on Duolingo. But then, as I started telling more people about my plan, I started to have second thoughts. Some people were really supportive, of course, but others, well, let's just say they weren't exactly encouraging. They pointed out all the practical things I hadn't really considered: the language barrier, the cost of living, the visa process. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that maybe this whole Amsterdam thing was more of a fantasy than a realistic plan. In the end, I decided not to go, and you know what? I'm actually really glad I didn't. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one for me at the time. It taught me the importance of thinking things through, of considering all the angles, and of not being afraid to change my mind. So how do we get better at making choices? Well, I think it starts with awareness. Paying attention to the choices we make, big and small, and how those choices make us feel. Are we constantly reaching for sugary snacks and then regretting it later? Are we saying yes to every commitment, even when we're already feeling overwhelmed? Once we start paying attention, we can start to identify patterns in our decision-making. And once we see the patterns, we can start to change them. It's about becoming more deliberate, more intentional in our choices, setting clear priorities, gathering information, and not being afraid to ask for help when we need it. And it's about learning to trust our gut, that inner voice that often knows what's best for us, even when we can't quite explain why. So that's it, the ultimate guide to choices. Okay, maybe not the ultimate guide, but hopefully it gave you something to think about. We talked about how even the smallest choices can have a ripple effect on our lives, how decision fatigue is a real thing, and how important it is to be intentional about the choices we make. We also talked about the importance of listening to our gut, gathering information, and not being afraid to ask for help. Making choices can be tough, but it's also empowering, because ultimately, we are the architects of our own lives. Remember, every choice you make is a step towards shaping your future. Choose wisely.